Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now is Cornell economics professor Stephen Kyle. He's an expert in macroeconomics and government policy at Cornell's Dyson School of Applied Economics and Management. And Professor, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
The small drop in unemployment reported in today's Bureau of Labor Statistics employment situation summary is being trumpeted as good news. 165,000 jobs reportedly gained, sending the unemployment rate down to 7.5%. In your view, are these numbers really good news?
Well, compared to some of the news we've been getting used to in recent months, it is good news. But in the big picture, it is a continuation of our slow trudge out from the depths of the depression that we got down into starting in 2008. In ordinary recovery from a recession that deep, you would expect a real bounce back. That's not what this is, but at least it's in the right direction, which is better than you can say for the Europeans.
What about the number of missing workers, the huge number of Americans who remain out of the workforce? The labor force participation rate held steady in April at 63.3%, the lowest level since 1979. Why has that number been so low?
Well, some people will tell you that the reason is that baby boomers are retiring and that as the population ages, we should expect that number to decline. And that is certainly true, but nothing like what we've seen since its peak a few years ago. There is no question that a lot of people are discouraged from looking for work, aren't finding anything, and are dropping out of the labor force altogether. That's not a good thing, and we should hope to see that turn around, and would see it if we had a stronger recovery.
So why do you think that number hasn't really turned around just yet, though?
Well, because we are not seeing really strong job growth. We're seeing, 165,000, 168,000, whatever it was this month or last month is a positive number. But if you have a strong recovery from a recession, and that's what we would like to be seeing, you would be seeing numbers of 200,000, 300,000, or even higher in the highest growth months. So one of the things that's been really holding us back is that the government is still posting negative numbers in job growth. So the private sector is growing slowly and the government is still shrinking.
Are there policies that are also contributing to that stunted growth? I know that you have said in the past that Washington is following Europe's lead. What policies do we need to either do away with, or what policies need to be put in place for us to have that robust growth?
Well, we need to stop trying to cut the deficit. And the deficit mania that is now rampant in Congress and that the president seems to have signed on to, at least to some degree, is really a problem. The private sector is not providing the jobs. The government could do it. And it's not as if there aren't things the government needs to be doing. We have roads, schools, bridges that all need rebuilding. We could be doing that at 0% interest on the money right now. And instead, we seem to be waiting until it's going to be 5% interest on the money to get those things done. And things are going to need to be rebuilt instead of just repaired, as is the case now.
While the pace of hiring was stronger than expected in April, it remained below the pace needed to put a significant dent in the jobless rate. How many jobs does the economy need to pick up each month to make a meaningful dent in unemployment?
Well, you would like to see numbers over 200,000. Regularly, at least for a while, until we made up for some of the slack that's there now. And also, it has to be said, the population has been growing since the depths of our recession. It's been growing all the while. So we need not only to get those unemployed people back to work, we need to find new jobs for the growing labor force that we have.
What about the continued drift downward in inflation, currently hovering around the 1% level? Should we be worried about too little inflation?
Yeah, we absolutely should. When you have a recession, which is caused mainly by credit market problems, as this one was, and mainly it came from the housing market, but it was the mortgages that really were the epicenter of our problem. You have a lot of people trying to work off debt before they're willing to start spending again. In order to help them work off that debt, a little bit of inflation would help erode the real value of the debts that they have. In addition, businesses are sitting on some estimates are as high as $2 trillion of cash, certainly a lot of cash. And why should they do anything but sit on it when there's no demand for their products, there's no inflation, we could inspire them to get that money working again if we had the economy moving a little faster.
Is today's jobs data strong enough to dissuade officials at the Federal Reserve from pressing forward with their bond buying stimulus, or do you see the Fed remaining engaged moving forward?
I don't think so, and I certainly hope not. I hope that they do continue with their bond buying. This is nowhere near as strong a recovery as we'd like to see. But having said that, what we really need is a fiscal stimulus. There's a limited amount that monetary stimulus can do, especially when we're already at the zero lower bound with interest rates. You can't get interest rates at the short end lower than zero, and that's where we are. So I'm all for the Fed doing what it can, but it's having to do that because Congress and the executive branch are unable, it seems, to act in terms of fiscal stimulus.
So, Professor, last question for you. What's your economic outlook for the remainder of the year?
Well, I think we're going to continue trudging along, slowly pulling out of this as we have been this month and the previous months this year. I mean, I'm looking for growth that is positive, but not so strong that it feels like we're really recovering very strongly. Call it 1%, 2% growth for the year. That is on the assumption that we don't have any big negative shocks, that nothing in the Mideast blows up, that the Europeans don't suffer a complete meltdown. And of course, we all know those wild cards could occur. And if they do, we're not in such a strong state that we would easily withstand it.
All right, Cornell University Professor Stephen Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Anytime.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.